So I think I got this working now. And I'm going to just send this out. But yeah, I'm not using a fancy camera or anything like that. I'm just chatting away for a moment because I really want to sort of just have it for the record how infuriating it actually is to have the they could have done this at any time. Clearly. I mean, this is the thing that I can't comprehend. Yeah, and neither can Maxine. If they're able to just decide arbitrarily to good. Sorry, I've been so infuriated by this. To arbitrarily decide to select a day. For what? What's changed? Well, Biden is going to be giving his State of the Union. Biden is going to be giving his State of the Union. Biden is going to be giving a State of the Union. Therefore, we can... Evidently, that means that sometime between now and the 7th, I am no longer diseased. I am no longer a danger to others. I spoke to some other New Yorkers today and tonight about this, and the thing that's mind-blowing is that you'd think that we would be happy. I'm not happy. I'm fucking enraged. If there was ever a clearer sign that this entire nonsense was entirely partisan and political, and that we were being played as a pawn, and that still, but the repercussions of this. I mean, let me share with you what some people are saying. My fellow New Yorkers. Let's see. Charlie O'Donnell, a checkmark, says, and what does Charlie O'Donnell do? So Charlie O'Donnell is a Xennial check writing VC dad. Of course, he's in Brooklyn. Something he has called This Is Going to Be Big.com. He has a weekly newsletter. So, he considers himself obviously to be a real, he invests in seed and pre-seed New York City startups. So, I remember a time when that world, imagine the year is 1999, and we're telling ourselves, coming back from the future and saying, like, guys, don't freaking do this. Why? Because if you keep this up, what's going to happen is that all those like advertising bros that, are doing, like, they're first going to do these things like pop-up ads. That's how it's going to begin. And then after that, they're going to, suddenly feel really threatened. And basically the entire media establishment is going to be essentially sucking on the teat of big pharma, which maybe right now isn't so bad, but in the future, it's pretty bad. How bad? Well, they call it Jim COVID. COVID, what's COVID? You'll see. So this guy says, what does he say here? He says, New York City is lifting the vaccine mandate at restaurants and gyms because New York City Mayor Adams wants things, quote, back to normal. But what he doesn't understand is it's the vaccine mandate that makes people more comfortable to go out. This makes no sense. Well, Charlie, then don't go out. I'm sorry, but evidently you haven't gotten the memo. The world doesn't make sense anymore. And then somebody named Gerolomon says, exactly. Last night, my wife and I ate indoors at a restaurant for the first time in 2 years because of the vax mandate. And yes, Mayor, Mr. Mayor, it was in Manhattan. Okay, so he's a New Jersey born and back Temple UVA grad. Last thing he ever posted about was Obama and Syria. So evidently he's, I don't know, he's been hiding longer than that. So, you know, they had 6 months. On the 17th, it's going to be not only 2 years since all this began, but 6 fucking months since the mandates began, since the and they're upset because they're not comfortable. These people call themselves progressives. This is sick. It's just it's disgusting. Um, what else has happened here? What else have I seen? Oh, evidently the mask mandates are coming up on Ash Wednesday. So, as somebody like to say that, Governor Hochul is giving up abusing children for Lent. So, isn't that nice? We can be very happy about that. Um, the sick part about this is that everybody's all excited that this is being removed. The reality is that the worst of the mandates are not being removed. You are still able to fire someone for noncompliance. Now, can someone explain something to me now? We have absolutely no science anymore to base any of this on. It is pure segregation, bigotry, super like it's it, if we could have a bill that's coming through New York stating that we should be able to reasonably expect. Notice, I mean, I look like shit on this stream, and I'm not even using the best camera. I honestly don't care because at this moment I'm so livid that how do I put this? In the letter that was written probably by Eric Adams's, 20-year-old press secretary, he states that he wants to thank all the vaccinated. Really? Well, thank them for what exactly? What are we going to thank them for? Because this was the pandemic of the unvaccinated. Are we going to keep on with that shit? Or do they think we are that stupid? And I think the answer to that is in part yes. And the idea that these people are going to get away with this, that these people are just going to and it's not, look, I get it. I'm biased. I remember early on in this whole thing, this real jerk of a person that I knew that I was shocked was being so uh, pro mandate said to me, "Oh, Ooana, you're just really upset because you don't want to be part of the lockdowns anymore." And at the time, I almost felt like I had to defend that. It's been 6 months. I'm leaving New York. I know a lot of people who are struggling with whether they're going to stay or leave. And they can't even just lift it for tomorrow. I'm tempted to go out and, go to places between now and the 7th and basically, check and see who allows me in and who doesn't and why. I have to confess, I lost the ability to try after that dance class that I was kicked out of. I'm not proud of it. Very much not proud of that. And, and that's really was, and that's what I think is so insidious about this. That was the goal. The goal was that we would be forgotten and make it easy for them. And that's the banality of evil right there. It is. And our media has utterly failed. The fact that most states don't know that in New York the medical exemptions didn't apply. I know some people who were in press in New York, and from the start, and also some people who have podcasts, across the country, and from the start, I was like, you have to know what's going on here. You have to know what's going on here. I'm going to tell a really hyperbolic story. There's, it's during Hitler, during World War II, and in Hungary, the Polish refugees that are running into Hungary from escaping the Nazis are telling these stories about the horrible things that the Germans are doing. And the response from the Hungarians are, well, that's in Poland, that's Germany, that's not here. Sound familiar? I've had and seen people from all over the country, just today, people in Los Angeles and Florida, chiding Eric Adams for lifting the mandates too soon. Fuck you. You're not here. Who the hell do you think you are? And you the audacity to feign support for the Ukrainian people. And I can't help but say this. I feel like that's something that we've done over, we talk a lot about like how Europeans may have, had this white man's burden thing. It's not just a race thing. This absolute assumption that first, I mean, out of all people on the planet, do you think that in under the Soviets wouldn't be on our side here? Of course they are. Hell, that's part of the problem. They were not following the mandates and they weren't complying. So I'm not saying that this is exactly why Putin stepped in, but I'm pretty sure it's why we and the EU did not make it less likely that Russia would have aggression, because it's important that, Eastern Europe get in line, know what they should be afraid of. They have to be afraid of Russia, not Brussels or DC or Ottawa or Sydney or Berlin or Vienna or Milan or Rome. I mean, it's almost the fact that it's arbitrary. It's like all along we were right. They could lift it and not lift it anytime they wanted, and they will do that again and again and again as long as we comply. And why wouldn't they? We need to stop looking at all this stuff like it's a partisan game, because this is not a game. In a very real way, I am sure that these mandates have killed people. There is a lot of behavior in these last 2 years that people make light of. Because somehow they place a concept of what morality is above being human. And there's in my poem, Words of My Generation, I say, beware those who elevate empathy above kindness. My fucking God, how right I was about that. And from friends before, from friends that are in New York or from high school, or do you know how many gave a shit? That many. That's actually not entirely true. There was somebody from Fire Island who actually reached out to me and said something. Thank you, Layla. No, I said something kind of mean to someone on Twitter, which was, I think part of the reason right now that some people are pushing back is on some level they know they're wrong, and that the next time it could be them who are deemed, you know, dangerous and the pandemic of the unvaccinated. God, that it fucking infuriates me now. So what? You just needed a couple polls to override the computer models, or I mean, at what point are we going to say that we are being? It'd be one thing if it was just corrupt. It'd be one thing, but it's not just corruption. In a very real way, I think that James Lindsay is absolutely right. He said that we had never, actually exited feudalism, and that the good news is that we're entering into another enlightenment, but the bad news is we never exited feudalism. I wish that somehow, I don't know how I would have wanted it to have gone, but knowing that this was entirely based on whether, what a poll said, not a poll about, it wasn't about scientific inquiry, it wasn't about morality, it wasn't about any of the things. Poll, and wanting to make sure that their little puppet of a old man, squinty-eyed, pudding-filled sock idiot that they wheel out every once in a while. It's how little they think of us. I remember in the beginning of the pandemic that I decided to spend some time and think about how pandemics had influenced the arts and the plague and the Spanish flu. And I hadn't known that Macbeth was actually written during a pandemic. So was Winter's Tale and King Lear. And I love Shakespeare. And one of the interesting things about all these plays is that they are all about rulers who don't just do something that betrays the people, but it's almost like in betraying the people, they betray something divine. And the punishment in every case is pretty intense. Now, in Shakespeare in general, betrayal of trust always has consequences, but in these plays, the consequences are pretty. I mean, in Macbeth, in Winter's Tale, she's turned into a statue for her husband that was lying about her infidelity. And in King Lear, he finds that he's let everybody down. Is with his daughter, and the thing is that he wrote those plays right when the King James Bible was taking power. He was known for being loved by the elites. The elites adored him. This was the last time in history, and the first time that recent history that we used lockdowns, and it killed people. In fact, during that last lockdown, William Shakespeare lost all of the boys that were in his company. All of them died. And they didn't die just because of this virus. Or it was a bacteria at the time, but they died because of bad policy. That's the truth. In fact, it was such bad policy that at one point they thought that it was being spread by cats, so they killed all the cat owners. After killing the cats didn't work. It's like, in Shakespeare, in Macbeth, he says, "'tis a tale told by an idiot, full of sound and fury, signifying nothing." "'Tis a tale told by an idiot, full of sound and fury, signifying nothing." That's what these 2 years have been. I mean, look, I can see and appreciate and value so many of the things. But guys, exactly, Christian. Oh, it's good to see you, man. That's exactly right. Not very different than what it is now, because suicides, drug overdoses, not even to get into what the vaccines may be doing. We don't know. But even the fact, so I have a confession to make, and I'm really ashamed of this because I didn't do anything, but how close I came. Just before I came back from Florida, I almost went and got a vaccine. It was almost like I rather choose to do it and be able to have a bit of a life than. And I'm so glad I didn't. And I knew that it wasn't rational, but sorry, it's just hitting me. 2 years. 2 years. I based that date on March 17th. So, as these things were happening in February, I really didn't start posting on Twitter at all, and I didn't have a YouTube channel or any of that stuff until like barely June of 2020. I was on Facebook one day, and I had been noticing something because I used to work at CNN in 2008. I worked for the Strategic Integration Group, which integrates advertising with production. I was a project manager, and I quit because we were lying about a forest fire, and I started calling it weather porn. It's when some natural disaster would occur, and there would be, in some way, it would be used to. It was always for cronyism. That's what it was. And that really irritated me too. I mean, I could almost bear it if there's a political motive that's, ideological, but no. I hate to tell you, most of these people, I mean, the new guy created shitty TV, night, shit that wasn't even funny, that was just divisive. And he's now going to be running the show. There goes that whole idea of it being. None of them care. Let me tell you from somebody who's worked in television. It's always been known that like one of the largest levels of sociopathy comes in TV. I don't know why, but so many of these people, they do not at all care. And it's not that the left doesn't care or that they're not even on the left. They have no, they're not even, their opinions sway as quickly as whether or not, you can see it when you look at people like AOC, right? Like, she doesn't give a shit. She doesn't mean half of what she says. You could see it. Same thing with Kamala. Same thing with, frankly, most of our. And here's the really sad part is we don't see it. We miss it. We fell for an actor playing the part of a president of Ukraine, showing us images of when he was heroic. Think about that. I can understand that one because I would never think that they would think so little of us that they would basically troll us like that. There's something. These people have no dignity, no grace, no sense of duty. I mean, what good is all this partisan crap and talking about what good is the soundbite when somebody says oh, I don't need a ride, I need ammunition, but all along it looks like those guys that half the guns that they're holding are made of wood, just like Biden's set, right? I mean, I come from a theater background. If you're gonna build a fake set for the fucking president, least you can do is do a good job. Like they don't even do that. Think about how disrespectful that is. So here in New York, man, like for these people to have access to power in a city that, if you think about who was inspired by this place, what happened, what was created here, and who's running the show now, who's making these decisions. I mean, it's like, I'm going to tell you a little personal story. So I was, my first love, I was like 22. And we were crazy about each other. And we had the kind of relationship where we never had these like this jealousy, or it felt like a really healthy thing. There was he was in music, and so there was a woman that used to send naked pictures of herself all the time. And we used to make fun of it. And I never would worry about what he would do if he was on tour. And especially at the time, I just had nothing to do with me, right? I came back early from a event we were both at, and he came back, and I made us dinner, and he then shared with me that this woman's name was Tina. Shared to me that he had slept with her. And I remember thinking with such disgust, it's like her. Like, it was this idea that somebody would, and I don't know, I don't know if everybody would understand this, but it feels similar. It feels like something has been sullying something they had no business sullying, whether it's New York or our country, or frankly, the fucking planet, really. Human beings in general. If this is how easy they could do it here, which was the epicenter of this pandemic, and it was real. And my friends who's like in Borneo, who's been in lockdown for 20 months, who hasn't seen a face outside without a mask on. And all of the people in the third world who've gone through hell, like that. I mean, seriously, you lock down here, we Netflix and chill. You lock down over there, people die. And I guess that's what it is. This has been a democide. That's really what it's been. And to know that it was so, I mean, there wasn't even, I mean, at least since some democides and genocides, there was a passion and a hatred. In this, it was just they didn't fucking care. They didn't, like, we were. Because that's what they think of themselves, I assume. I mean, sure, I should be happy that it's lifted, but I'm not. I don't know what I expected. I didn't. It's almost like, when you're in an abusive relationship and then somebody gives you this sort of half-assed apology, but what they're saying is that that you don't matter. It's another slap in the face. None of us do. And I don't know if we've ever had a situation like this. I don't know. I know that there's been times in history that, like, Wilsonian progressives really saw themselves as this, that they were, it's like the snobbiest of the snobs kind of thing, that it was their role to, and Puritans had this too, but on this mass scale, to know that, and to know that even with what's going on now in Ukraine and Russia, like, just this feeling of not. Let me clarify. In Live Not by Lies, Solzhenitsyn writes that after he expounds on certain ways that you will live your life in truth, and that you won't lie about things by saying a motto that you don't believe or whatever. He says that once you've had that purification of lies, that they've been purified, once they've been purified, that same way of looking at things will reveal everything else. And man, was he right. I can't say that I know what's going on, but I do know we're being bullshitted. And I, would once say that, as New Yorkers, we once took pride in that. Like, don't bullshit a bullshitter, right? Let's have a quick look, shall we, and see what people's reactions to Mr. Mayor's announcement is. So, Charlie's been here getting a bit of a mouth, talking to. So this is cool. Somebody says, I was just texting with a number of my friends who are all vaccinated, and we all concluded that the bars and restaurants should be, assuming no blizzards, insane next weekend with the mandates lifted. And all of them are very excited at the prospect. That's my New York. Thank you. Thank you. It's. I'm pretty proud to see that there's not too many people like that Charlie guy. It reinforces our suspicions, many of us, that we were not the minority. And even if we were, people didn't like that. New Yorkers especially did not like that. It's not who we are. So, as much as I may not ever trust this place again. Oh, so here's the press secretary of Mr. Mayor. Now, I'm just going to say, let's compare this person to the press secretary of the governor of Florida. This guy says, his name is Fabian Levi. God damn it. What is with my freaking people here? I really do not understand sorry. Mr. Levi here is, I don't quite know why he's choosing to spread this bullshit. He says, here's a better interpretation. Everyone in New York City should go get vaccinated, and then they can go back to normal life. Then they can go back to normal. Wow. Thank you, Capo. Then, oh, whoa. Here's something I hadn't noticed. If New York City, this is what the mayor says, if New York City's COVID numbers continue to go down, so long as our indicators show a low level of risk and we see no surprises this week, on Monday, March 7th, we will also remove the vaccination requirements for key to New York City, meaning indoor dining, fitness, and entertainment venues. Oh my, I get to go back to the gym again. Really? Wow. Thanks. Then Fabian here chimes in and says, to be clear, the more unvaccinated New Yorkers who go and get vaccinated right now, the more likely this is to happen next week. Everyone wants to get back to our normal life, so let's do our part to get there. You bastard. Wow. That's, what is that? What is that? How dare he talk to us that way? Seriously. He's not our parent. He's not even elected. I think that, honestly, the only thing that I can think, maybe, is we gotta get loud. Make it just push back. I'm not even just saying on Twitter, but honestly, anyone who's been anti-mandate, if you vote at all, we have to make it clear. For now, I'm a one-issue voter across the board. What is your position? What was your position on mandates and lockdowns? Tyranny or freedom? Tyranny or freedom? That's it. Nothing else. Because I don't believe anything. Like if you're going to tell me that you're, pro choice or, pro women's rights, and then you tell me that you were pro mandate here in New York, the way it was, even especially this late in the game, this motherfucker, do you think that he doesn't know? Of course he knows. This isn't about health anymore. Never was, but it really isn't now. Which reminds me, if anybody happens to watch this that happens to be a lawyer or knows of a cuckoo lawyer that might just want to have some fun, I think that with a lot of effort gone, and this is the kind of thing that we can't not point out that at this point, denying somebody the ability to go to have a meal, the fact of opportunities to meet people, to the number of things, the infinite number of things that don't happen when somebody is being segregated and somebody's being told that they're unwelcome. It starts a very dangerous precedent. I don't know if you're still in there, Christian, but I know you know what I'm talking about. because you go through it too in Montreal. I think that there's absolutely a constitutional case to be made that we are now dealing with an infringement clearly on the rights to privacy, pursuit of happiness, and a damages, or potential for damages of lost opportunity and lost revenue, all of it. And if we can't make a constitutional point on this, then what can we? And I say this especially to women, because remember, Holmes, his ruling correlated. I know it's a joke, Christian, I know. But evidently it's a joke here too. But I don't want it to be. And just like you guys, that passion that you showed, and right now it's a hilarious. This war is sure distracting from the truckers, right? So they're scared. Good. Good. And anybody who's afraid of sharing air with us, I made a joke. Let's just tell them that we only feed in the fall, and that they'll be okay because we're not hungry right now. That we're not going to devour them. And then just look how the reactions are, because I guarantee you there's some people who are going to actually get excited by that, because I'm convinced that there's a fetish element to this for some of these people. 100%. Maybe we just need to open more dungeons or something. Or, I don't know. These people really, I think it's true. These people have never heard the word no. And we've got, oh God, how many more years of Biden? It's not even about Biden. God, how many more years of this bullshit? We all know it's bullshit. We know it is. It's exhausting, and it's demeaning, and take it from somebody who's been in an abusive relationship. The only way is for you to stop behaving the way that these imbeciles. Because I can't think of anything about these people that is anything other than bureaucratic, low, educated past their capacity, moronic, cliquish. Have you ever seen? I mean, granted, have you ever seen like a more vanilla toast, like bunch of people in your life? I mean, of course, this is the best that that they're holding on to, because for them, some of us could never do to other people what they've done, because the notion of denying another person the opportunity to experience awe or joy or inspiration is so. I mean, if you ask me, sorry, Maxine really wants to be in on this. If you ask me, do I think that it's worse to we can't treat people who are yearning to make a living, the word living is trivial. And look, this is going to sound a little weird, but I know that it hasn't always been the case, that there was a time when people who had power or titles or whatever, they were elite, there were people that saw things as they had a duty. I mean, you can sense it in some people a little bit. They might be scared, but you can feel it. There's some people that you can sense they have a sense of what honor means. And that we're losing that really rapidly. And I don't just mean because of online stuff. I really don't. There's been incidences in my life and in some people I know's life where people have been, the more we let politics, the state, the government treat us like we are dispensable, unworthy of feelings of discomfort, because not being uncomfortable is worth more than a connection with another person, a sincere one, even in small moments. We've become a people that are, it's so, you know what? It's so shallow. It's so fucking shallow. And it's being propagated and led by, like, I mean, to put it as a reality TV star, the shallowest of the shallow. You know, if Ted Turner wasn't, you know, going through dementia, I think he would weep at what's happened with CNN. I think that the people who are originators of PBS would be disgusted by what's happened to NPR, the way they talk about things. So I'm pissed, man. I'm angry. And I think what I'm going to try to do is focus for a while, instead of all on that, on some ideas and art projects that are being, that that's been in the pipeline, as well as an article that I have to write. But I'm just going to share quickly a little bit about two of the projects. One is I want to do a digital version of Rhinoceros by Eugenie Ionescu, and have it be done as that Spaces is the stage and Twitter is the set. So if there's anybody who's interested in helping me out with that, definitely will need some text stuff, as well as brainstorming, as well as, of course, people to read it. If you want to look at the play, you can find it online. It's you can get a PDF. It's Ionescu, Eugene Ionescu, which is spelled like this. The play is about a city in which everyone is turning into a rhinoceros, and it's either a one-horned or a two-horned rhinoceros. And he wrote this during Hitler and Stalin. And you know, what's the difference between a one-horned and two-horned rhinoceros? Not much. And there's some really great lines in the play. For example, like there's one that I think about a lot. That's you know, logic is such a beautiful thing. And then there's what says, well, yes, unless you abuse it. And I've been thinking a lot about the difference between logic and rationality lately. And it's an absurdist play, and just for, you know, bonus, he didn't like Sartre at all. And Sartre was an existentialist who was pretty much a nihilist as well. And we're surrounded by them. They're coming from within the house. Then the other idea is actually to create a timeline, now that we've come to this denouement, and this deus ex machina of you know, mandates being dropped in Ukraine, going to, you know, whatever, is a timeline of everything that's happened for the last 2 years, but in memes. So that's fun. And I'm working on that with a friend of mine named Antigone. But I love collaboration, so if any of these things interest you, it would be great for me, because it'll get my head out of this stuff and focused on that while I'm also planning on moving. Before I go, awkward moment. I have put up a fundraiser. I could use some help in. So I've got a Airbnb that I'm staying at for 3 months while I'm taking care of some financial stuff here before I sell my place. I'm still leaving. I it's I deserve better, and so do all of us, I think. And I can fight for New York elsewhere. But anyway, to go back to the whole thing, see, I'm struggling with it. I feel guilty. I do. But you know, I'm sure Christian, you could attest, it's sanity there. Here it's, we just had somebody talk about they can't lift it right away. I mean, evidently I'm a contagion until the 7th. Unless enough people get vaccinated. Kidding me. So I have a place that I'm staying for 3 months. I got that Airbnb, but I, of course, have to rent a car, and I'm not gonna be able to buy a car till after my place sells, or and when I know it's gonna sell, and I can get a bridge loan to potentially help me out with that. So these last 2 years have been strapped. I'm tapped out, and I don't want to miss out on opportunities to look at real estate and jobs because I'm not just going there to chill out. I'm going there to build a life. So I've started a fundraiser to help me rent a car, and it's expensive. So, and every bit little bit helps, and I feel really awkward about it, but I appreciate it. I know that folks understand that this isn't just a. I remember the beginning of the pandemic. I really thought, if you go look on my Facebook, it's a public thing, or on my YouTube, there's this post I wrote asking people what future they wanted. And it had a really great response. I was really struck by it. I didn't expect it. And then that weekend, George Floyd happened. I feel like they've taken so many things that are part of what makes us compassionate, empathetic, kind, good, decent people, and they've squandered our hearts. And it's not for very much. That's the worst part. They don't even believe much. They don't. You can't convince me that Keith Oberlin, or whatever the fuck his name is. And it's embarrassing. I mean, especially the ones from New York, because like New York, we had Lou Reed, Leonard Cohen. I forgot. Like, it's just I can't even. I hope that these people haunt them forever. I really do. Like anyway, so I could use the help. I have that up in Twitter, or you can ask me for a link, or I've got a little tip, like cash thing on my top of my Twitter, so like looks like a little envelope or dollar thing, and that you can do, Venmo or I can't remember the other one in there. Last but not least, there's my flight is March 31st, and after that, it's, I'm kind of preparing to basically this is my last month. I mean, it's going to take time for me to do everything I need to do. It's going to be a slow process, but I'd really like to. There's a couple things I'd like to do. I mean, now especially that it looks like I'll be able to. If I can, I'd like to go to the 9/11 museum. I never went. I'd like to see American Buffalo. Hey, Lawrence, your neighbor. What's up? Long time. I doubt he's going to see this, but that's why I want to go. Be nice to possibly say hello. And I'd like to go to the Whitney and see my favorite Hopper painting. So if any New Yorkers see this and they want to join, those are all going to be pretty emotional things for me. So good luck with me on that, but you're very welcome. And if there's any other ideas, don't let them think that they've done you a favor. This reminds me of actually, I'm gonna change this up a sec. I'm going to end this with a little rereading of the very first thing I put on, or maybe second thing I put on here, which is a poem called Words of My Generation. The background for this poem, actually, I wrote this one in the poem No Visitations, both in 2016, and it was a very weird experience writing both of them, because in both cases, it felt like I had I couldn't keep up with, like, it felt like I was transcribing them. So, and it's come to mind a little bit lately, and I know that the video is there, but anyway, I feel like sharing it with you guys, so I'm just going to do it. So, those who claim we are destroying the earth once claimed there were people destroying their God. Those who claim all religions are the source of ills once claimed all godless were the source of illness. Beware the benevolent trends. They destroy the forest before the medicines even get a chance to first grow. Beware those who claim why the creations have become less bountiful. Beware those who call you thief, that the gate was opened like a mugging and the green stolen, denied now to you forever for the crime. Beware the word misused, reused, or recycled. Beware of those who deny meaning or language to invoke change. They drain the waters as they always have. Beware any who claim ownership of language. Beware those who say beware. Be aware of words used, the poetry of linguistics, not the logic of the false critics and mystics. Mind the gaps between ages, and so-called sages. Not all explorers are courageous or wise. Experience is often wasted on the inexperienced. Be bold enough to welcome the return of authority. Beware the blamers, for they are the victim of another age's false benevolence. Give them soulful pity, but no mercy. Assume that not only the survivors survive. Beware the anointed victims. Beware the revelations induced, not introduced, and received in the slow dose of ordinary perception. No one knows the mind, mindful or empathic, unless they know their own. Pay them no mind until you've learned your own. No one can walk in anyone else's shoes until they've walked in their own. Beware those who elevate empathy over kindness. Beware those that often say, silence is always golden, or it speaks more than words can say, or talk is best done slow, or better left unsaid, for they never knew the unleavened word. They were the keepers of the grandest inquisitor's tools, too horrific to word, left to the world of the wordless. Beware those that choose by committee. Beware the children of democracy. Beware those left to create with only excuses made for creation and call that art. Beware the times that elevate restraint and encourage solitary boxes. Joy shouldn't be contained or feigned with false friends, for that is a feast of famine, obeying a vegetable law. Beware those who value introversion more than solitude. Beware the ones who long to be numb. Beware those that say you must understand that you will never be understood. Beware those who don't have the conditions to suffer, for they will strip yours away and demand thanks for it. Beware those who teach well, but were not taught well. For they don't know the value and the safety they've shown you in self-reliance. They will never see their hands relocating the chains from themselves back onto you. Be aware, for they will betray the law of lessons. Beware the promise of free love, for it is the most costly of all deceptions. Without even an offer to partner Dionysus with Apollo, no manner of manners will serve, no loving will ever save, when everyone is free to choose slavery. It's that verse, that line, beware those who don't have the conditions to suffer, for they will strip yours away and demand thanks for it. So, that's it for now. And one thing I know that is the same thing we all kind of share, those of us who have a kinship right now. I know we all want and wished we were wrong. So maybe that's part of why I'm so upset today. I really, really, really wanted to be wrong. I still do. So, we're gonna have a hell of a party one day. Team Reality. It'll be awesome. Have a good night, guys. And Maxine says snort. Oh, she's coming with me to St. Petersburg this time. I missed her. She missed me. She's cute. She's so cute. Look at that. Yes. Do you see yourself right here? No. Okay, we're gonna go snuggle. Have a good night, everybody, and give them hell.